Sunday, all about that base. President Trump campaigning for Republicans. Firing up his most loyal supporters.
I had heard that he body slammed a reporter.
And making his closing argument.
This will be the election of Kavanaugh, the caravan, law and order, tax cuts, and common sense.
Republican candidates get the message.
And then we got this freaking caravan?
While Democrats focus on health care.
Protections for pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions?
Is there a Democratic wave coming? We've got data to support that. Has a surge of post-Kavanaugh enthusiasm for Republicans turned back the Democrats' momentum? There's data to support that. Or could this be a typical midterm with Democrats making just modest gains? There's data to support that, too. And we have plenty of new data this morning. Here's what our brand new NBC News-Wall Street Journal poll shows with just over 2 weeks to go until the midterms. Among registered voters, Democrats hold a 7-point lead in the generic ballot, 48-41. That's down significantly from the 12-point lead Democrats held just a month ago, pre-Kavanaugh, when it was 52-40. But wait, there's more. Among likely voters, the Democrats' lead grows, not shrinks. Grows to 9, 50-41. Here's why that's interesting. It's the first time ever in our polling that our likely voter model shows a better number for the Democrats than the registered voter number. Normally, in midterms, Republicans have the likely voter advantage. So what's different this year? It's the heightened enthusiasm for Democrats among Millennials, Latinos, and younger women, groups that historically have had low turnout rates but are making it into our likely voter model this year. As for President Trump, he has his best numbers yet in our poll. Among registered voters, 47% approve of his performance in office, while 49% disapprove. That's substantially better than his numbers last month in our poll, 44-52 approve, disapprove. But again, among those likely voters, his numbers did get worse, 45% approve, 52% disapprove. There are a lot of questions leading up to this year's midterms. But here's what we do know. There's a higher interest in this election than any midterm we've ever measured. Turnout's going to be through the roof. And the divide between men and women is growing, with the Democratic strength the result of unprecedented support among women. Now, will it be enough to stop the Republicans' post-Kavanaugh bump? That's going to be the story of the next 16 days.
Democrats produce mobs. Republicans produce jobs.
President Trump's closing argument is all about the base.
Democrats want to throw your borders wide open to deadly drugs and ruthless gangs.
And Republican candidates are sounding more and more like Mr. Trump, repeating dire warnings on immigration.
Remember, it's going to be an election of the caravan.
The caravan is coming from Central America.
This migrant caravan,
We got this freaking caravan?
at times using violent language.
Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind.
I'm going to stomp all over your face with golf spikes.
Candidates are even recycling Mr. Trump's insults.
He's a low-energy person.
Here's the idiot. You know, getting a little crazy there. I think your teleprompter's going a little too slow.
And with President Obama largely absent from the campaign trail and House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi unpopular with independents, Democrats running in states Trump won are running away from the national party.
They are going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Those are fighting words for a lot of people, not just Democrats, but independents as well. Pre-existing conditions, making sure that Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid are strong for years to come. That's a good basis to get a lot of people elected to Congress.
And after 17 days now confirming that, yes, he died at the hands of some Saudi intelligence agents. I got to put up the changing story from them, though. It's amazing. It took them for 10 days. They were saying things like, we're investigating. They're looking. He left the consulate. That was one of their first explanations, saying this idea that Saudi Arabia was responsible, that was baseless and false. Then last week they started working on a cover story. President Trump suggested rogue killers were to blame. And then finally they claim it was essentially an accidental death as a result of some sort of brawl. Is there any part of this story that you accept as credible from the Saudi Arabian government?
No, and as a matter of fact, the only person on earth outside of the Saudi kingdom who appears to accept it is President Donald Trump. Here's what we ought to do, and we ought to do it tomorrow morning. We ought to formally expel the Saudi ambassador from the United States until there is a completion of a third-party investigation into this kidnap, murder, and God knows what followed that occurred in Istanbul. We should call on our allies to do the same. If we want them to stop this and make it clear we don't accept it, we need to be decisive. Expel that journalist, stop our assistance to their war in Yemen, let them know they're going to pay a price.
Do you believe the Crown Prince was ordered this killing? Senator Corker this morning says he believes that the Crown Prince himself ordered this.
I believe it. 5 of his top personal bodyguards are among those currently accused in the 18.
Any part of the Saudi government's explanation that you find credible?
No, not at this point. I agree with everything Dick Durbin just said. We've got to get to the bottom of it. In Saudi Arabia, you do not do something of this magnitude without having clearance from the top. We need to find out who that is and hold them accountable.
Are you as convinced as Senators Corker and Durbin are, as that the Crown Prince himself ordered this killing?
Well, it looks like it based on the people who were involved in the actual act. I think that's why we need the help from the Turkish officials to get as much information as we have, draw a conclusion, and then there has to be a consequence for it.
Let me move to the midterms. The president says these midterms are about the following: Kavanaugh, the caravan, law and order, and common sense. You're the vice chair of the NRSC. Is that the best summation that you would advise Republican candidates to give around the country?
I think those are factors, but I believe historic job creation, historically low unemployment among Latinos and African Americans, the economic performance, the work that we've done to get NATO to contribute to our mutual defense. There are a lot of things that resonate with the voters. Well, if you take a look at the scoring for economic growth over time, I think that there is a way to rationalize that this tax cut will pay for itself through sustained economic growth.
There's some good news in our latest NBC News-Wall Street Journal poll. Americans agree on at least one thing. The bad news? They agree on how divided we are. A whopping 80% of respondents think the country is divided. Somehow, there are 19% that claim we're united. And you can see the divisions across all facets of American life. Democrats and Republicans, Clinton voters, Trump voters, folks who live in urban, suburban, and rural areas. In all of these groups, at least 70% think the country is mainly or totally divided. And if we're just talking about political divisions between Democrats and Republicans, 90% see this as a serious problem facing this country. Only 10% think it is not a serious problem. But where there is disagreement, it's about who's to blame for this division. Among those who strongly approve of President Trump, they place most of the blame for the country's divisions, not surprisingly, on the Democratic Party and liberals. They also lay blame at Barack Obama, godlessness, and even a few people cite President Trump. On the other side of this coin, those who strongly disapprove of this president blame none other than the president himself, followed closely by the Republican Party. But even among those with neutral feelings about President Trump's job performance, they still blame him for the country's divisions, followed closely by the Democratic Party and liberals. And they throw us in the media in as well. Look, it is not breaking news that the country is divided. But after being out on the road this week, I felt there is a sense of exhaustion and anxiety over this division, and this poll proves it. And until voters, though, punish politicians for creating these divides, right now there's no incentive for them to lead by example. The one thing we do agree upon in this country is that we are so divided. We've had a couple of mob scenes where leaders of the Democrats and of the Republicans were both publicly harassed. Here's a scene with House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi down in Miami earlier this week.
You don't belong here, communist. Get the out of here. Get the out of here.
Dade County Republican Party chairman actually apologized for the treatment of that. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, TMZ posted this video from Friday night in a restaurant in Louisville where he is getting harassed. Take a listen.
Oh, yeah. Why did you get out of here? Why did you leave your ass?
You know, Peggy, in each party, and I've watched them, and it really disgusts me. They try to weaponize these incidents on the other side, saying, "Look at what an angry mob, is saying on the left, or what these angry people on the right." We have angry people left and right. This isn't made up. It's ugly. It's bad. And I think leaders of both parties need to accept that.
Somebody's got to calm it down. We've got 2 weeks to go. People are on edge. They're fighting. The fact that we live in the media world that we live in means everything's taped so everybody can see it and everybody can get a little bit madder. But I think somebody has to come forward, maybe a group of people, and say, you know what, everybody, calm down. This is a great democracy.
Normally that'd be
we can work this out.
President of the United States, but he's bragging about body slamming.
But he cannot do that. He's not really in the position to. He could be one of many voices.
So the president does it, obviously, and it works with his base. But at the same time, look on the other side, all right? Or Colder, kick him, right? I mean, Nancy Pelosi, collateral damage. Hillary Clinton talking about civility.
Where did this all start? I think you have to acknowledge that the heating up of the rhetoric and the anger and the punch him in the face and the body slam him, that started when Donald Trump started campaigning, and suddenly he moved the conversation
down. This has been going on for a long time. Just like Alexander Hamilton.
We're from an election that a lot of people care intensely about. This will calm down. It will calm down after the election.
I'm not sure.
It won't stay at the fever pitch. This is, and we're coming up to a really important election, and our Constitution guarantees people the right to
protest,
to protest, and to tell our officials what they think.
Feminism is encouraged, though.
It's encouraged in every facet. You have it. When you get on social media, all you see is this person is evil, that person is the devil. Thank you so much for hitting back at that person. You see it in every aspect of the discussion on social media. Even when we do interviews, I know you and I have talked about this with either person, either side of the political spectrum. You'll have Raw Story coming out and saying, "Oh, Chuck Todd slams down X." Katie Tur rips apart Y. It's the way we talk about things and the way things are described that's dividing the country.
Can I tell you also, too many people are living just for politics. They see themselves as political beings. They go forward into the world with political anger. We are narrowing what we are. Americans used to think of themselves as religious beings, people who loved a team, this and that. It's now like, I'm about politics and I'm going to get in your face. It's wicked, and it's not going to help us.
Politicians have failed for so long, for decades and decades. Along comes Donald Trump, the great disruptor, and he has channeled into that. And my point simply is that when you go after 30, 40 years of this, look, you're going to have issues of where we are today.
Final word, Gene.
16 days. This is a really big election. Everybody who has all this energy, go out and vote. Vote.
Don't scream vote, right? Don't harass vote. That should be our new mantra. Anyway, thank you all. By the way, you guys were disagreeing without being disagreeable. We can set a great example for America.